It's been made official, the Battlefield 2042 has been delayed until November 19th, 2021, sitting it very cozily next to Call of Duty Vanguard's Warzone integration and the launch of Halo. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was one of the people who thought that this genuinely wasn't going to get a delay, and I thought that the media was paying too much attention to some tweets and information that may not necessarily be real. But it is the case, and Battlefield is being delayed for another month, which is something that I can understand from a technical point. But we're going to talk about that delay today. We're going to talk about things that have been going kind of right and wrong in this camp with Battlefield 2042, and talk about this delay overall. Now, to offset some bad news with some good news, if you check out the link in the description below and the comment section below, I have a link to a giveaway that I'm running in conjunction with JBL. For those of you guys who know JBL, they're a huge audio company who have recently branched into gaming headsets. We're giving away one of their new JBL 800 headsets, which is truly incredible. I use a similar headset myself at the moment that they sent me, so check it out. Get a chance to win a headset, it's pretty cool. It's in the description and in the comment section below. So the official delay announcement reads that they've made the decision to shift the launch for an entire month, and the reason for it is that the global pandemic has continued to make unforeseen challenges to development, and it seems to have impacted their workflow. Bearing in mind, they have a lot of staff, they have to make sure that they can work safely, and all of them are presently working from home. They did say though that there's some extra time here to deliver on the vision of Battlefield 2042 and really give it the final touches that it needs, and that they've been very inspired by the enthusiasm that people have shown for the game. There'll also be some updates on the open beta coming later this month. Now, this isn't a huge surprise really. I mean, 2020 and 2021 has kind of been the year of the delay. We've had a lot of games, you know, AAA titles, massive titles from massive studios, whether it's Halo or some PlayStation exclusives or Xbox exclusives that have been delayed and pushed back to later dates. Dying Light 2, I think Ghostwire Tokyo recently got delayed. There's just been a lot going on that has pushed games into different development windows. And it makes sense, because what's happening really is that you're seeing the aftermath of COVID-19, where perhaps some studios felt that they were going to be able to finally start getting staff back into the office into the later parts of this year, and perhaps increase productivity in some places where now they haven't been able to. Now, EA does deserve a general, thumbs up for being one of the first companies to transition all of its staff to a work-from-home environment, and it's why that they've managed to get a lot of their games like FIFA and Madden, developed and out the door on time, which is great to see. But Battlefield 2042 is a really huge project. All-Out Warfare alone is 7 massive maps. You've got Hazard Zone on top of that, which requires another layer of development, and Battlefield Portal, which has an entirely different development team over at the former DICE LA, now known as Ripple Effect. So between DICE, Criterion, Ripple Effect, and EA Gothenburg, you've got 4 massive development teams working on this game, and there perhaps was a misconception or a misunderstanding that there could have been some more work from the office later this year. That's fine, that's something that obviously couldn't happen, and we're seeing the aftermath of that in a 1-month delay. Now, this is still the largest ever Battlefield project ever made in terms of the scope and scale. Breakaway as a map alone is 5.9 kilometers squared and requires a lot of work. On top of that, you've got all the various modes, you've got all the 3 individual multiplayer experiences, so it's really not a surprise to see that the most ambitious Battlefield yet is also something that's going to be delayed. That's not something that I'm upset about, and I don't really think many people are upset about. It's just the state of gaming at the moment that lots of things are being delayed into later dates. And of course, when you have a project so massive, it's the larger the project, the more likely you are to see a shift in the time frame. Dying Light 2, for example, is probably one of the largest ever open world intricacies we've seen in a while in terms of how the plotline develops and the fact that certain decisions within the plotline change the entire game world, and there's just a lot going on with that project from a different development company, and it was no surprise to me to see Dying Light 2 delayed, although admittedly that was pushed all the way into 2022. Overarchingly, at the end of the day, a lot can be done in a month of game development. I've spoken to and spoken with lots of game developers in my past, and the difference a month can make is actually pretty astronomical. I imagine the Battlefield 2042 is actually in a pretty good state right now. It's just that there are some bugs, or perhaps bugs on specific platforms, that need longer to be shifted or need longer to be dealt with in order for the game to get a smooth launch. And there is some credit to this idea, because back when there was a official playtest for Battlefield 2042, there were severe problems on the PlayStation 5 version of the game that mean that they didn't even run a technical test on PS5. Factor in that and the fact that you also have to develop for previous generation, next generation, and PC. There's a lot going on here, especially with crossplay, cross-progression, loads of other various systems. Again, it's not a surprise. The only thing I will say, and something that I imagine people are a little bit mad about, is the lack of general communication we've had leading up to this delay, the lack of communication surrounding the beta, and I think a lot of this stemmed from the precariousness of the dates themselves. You know, I can understand why people are mad about that, or people are upset about the fact that they didn't see anything regarding news for the beta, or perhaps even just a few more gameplay clips to see what the game actually looked like. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. To start with, you don't have your normal convention media outrun for Battlefield 2042 this year. You know, they weren't at Gamescom, they had EA Play where they showed some things off, but fundamentally you don't have YouTubers and creators and streamers playing the game and showing you the game online, which is something we've seen for pretty much every previous Battlefield prior to this. Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, etc, etc, all of those had lots of media events in the lead up to the game that meant that you got to see a lot of the game. 2042 hasn't had that for obvious reasons, including the fact that there just hasn't been any events, and where they have, they've been digital, and they might not necessarily want to go to those events, and I can get that. But I think there's just been a general void of communication here. And a lot of that to me reads as a development team and publisher who are having not necessarily an internal conflict, but definitely an internal discussion surrounding the game and its current status. Ultimately, it would be DICE who are saying, look, you know, this isn't going to be ready for the October release date. We're going to need another month to get the development polished. They may have even requested longer, I imagine. It could have come up in conversation. And there would have been a lot of back and forth between EA, DICE, Criterion, Ripple, and Gothenburg as to when they felt they could get this launched in a good standard, or a standard that they were happy with. And that was something that I imagined went on. And because that went on, and because that conversation likely took a while, you probably saw this void of communication, because there'd be no point of the marketing team and PR team releasing information and releasing gameplay clips if the game was inevitably going to be delayed by a month. And there'd be no point making them produce that content for it if the game was going to be delayed, because it changes their timeline as well. But the 2 or so week void of information and void of communication is something that I don't think we want to see again. You know, if they are going to delay the game, sure, but show us some more details about the game. You know, give us a little bit of gameplay. Even if it's just a snippet here and there once a week, it's enough to keep people interested. So inevitably we're now stuck with this delay. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. A month really isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. As somebody who plays a lot of early access shooters, a lot of PC titles, Squad, Hell Let Loose, Postscriptum, any of those other titles as well, I'm used to, you know, some updates being pushed back pretty tremendously. You know, in the Squad world of things, for example, we've had major updates go from, yep, it's coming next month, to, yep, it's coming next year. And that's something that can just happen. You know, it is the state of game development, but we're lucky, I think, to see a 1 month delay as opposed to a longer delay, and I think we'll have to wait and see what the quality of the game looks like, although I am fairly confident with the amount of time they've had to develop the game that it will be in a much better state than Battlefield 4 when it launched, Battlefield Hardline, Battlefield 1. I think it will be in a similar standard to those last 2 titles, and hopefully something that we will see soon. So folks, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As always, thank you guys for joining me on this video today. Leave a like, leave a sub, check out the headset giveaway, and I'll catch you again in the next one.